eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
What the hell is going on, everybody? Thank you all for being here. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're having a good weekend. We have a wild show to get into today. This is something that was recommended to me by a whole bunch of people. Now, specifically, I want to shout out, I believe it's Michael. I think I saw him in the chat earlier. Math Inc. Shout out to him. And also shout out to UFOs Around the World, which is a creator from the UK who I've been in touch with. And he also recommended that I cover this. And this is fascinating. There, like, the implications of this being legit, which it certainly seems to be. I mean, I don't even know where we go from here. So shout out to Matt, UFOs Around the World. Go and check him out. He's on YouTube and on TikTok as well. But this is a leaked phone call, audio tape between a CIA scientist named Kit Green and a remote viewer named Randall. Oh my God, I'm forgetting her name. I've got it written down here. She's got three names. That's why. K. Randall May. The three names always gets me. So that's what we're going to be getting into today. Now, the video of this audio tape went up a couple of days ago, and the audio is not that great. So I tried to touch it up a little bit, and I've also gone through and added captions to it. So it should make the viewing a little bit more enjoyable and easier to digest, because I'll be real, when I was listening to it, it's like, it's kind of hard to grasp, but with the captions, it does make it much easier to kind of digest what's happening. So we'll go through that. But we have a couple of quick little announcements that I just want to get through quickly. The first one is, this is a little reminder that next weekend, so a week today on Sunday, Sunday in Australia, we have Polarity's very first birthday. That's right. We are turning 1 year old. And we're going to be having a big party stream for that. So what that means is, for the next couple of days, we'll probably still be doing a couple of live streams. There's a few things that I want to talk about with you guys. But probably from like maybe Wednesday-ish onwards, there won't be live streams, because we'll just be saving it up. We'll be building it up, getting ready for the big party. Okay. But in saying that, there'll be videos. We'll still have some videos coming out, but we'll have a little break from the lives just to build up the tension. Okay. Just a bit of tension so we can release together on Sunday and have a really good time. Now, the other announcement, which is quite exciting, is that Polarity is now officially partnered with PROTON. That's right. We have an official channel partnership for the very first time. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about that, because I think a lot of you guys know that PROTON is like an email service, but it is actually more than that. It is like a VPN. It is an unlimited privacy suite, essentially. They do a full end-to-end encrypted email system, 500 gig of encrypted cloud storage, 8,600 VPN servers in over 110 countries, with the fastest speeds, by the way. You've also got dark web monitoring and a full suite of privacy features to keep you protected online. And I know when you are a bunch of freaks like you guys are, you don't know where you're going online, okay? So having something like this to have your back is a good thing. So with that end-to-end encryption, not even PROTON can read your emails, they can't see your data, and their VPN doesn't keep any logs. So when you're dancing around these weird little sites, doing the freaky things that you guys do, no one's going to know, all right? Your secret is safe with PROTON. So basically, this is your online shield. And you can use the link below, just here, proton.me/polarity, to get 23% off their unlimited suite. It's also in the description as well. But let me just be real for a second here. They offered to pay me like a single lump sum to do an ad for them, right? And this, I mean, I'm sure everyone knows PROTON. Like, this is a solid product. It's something I use. I believe in it. So rather than do just a single ad with them, I decided to actually partner with them. So I'm not getting paid for this, but I will get a commission on anyone who subscribes to PROTON with this link. So you can basically support me and protect yourself at the same time. So I did that because I actually believe in the product and I'm not just going for like a quick cash grab. So there you go. Very exciting announcement there. First partnership. And you can check that out at the link below. But enough of that. Let's get out of that and get on with the show. Tim, thank you for becoming a member, sir. Appreciate you. S-Jack with $15, my man. Thank you very much. McArtistry with $5 puts in the 100, my man. Thank you very much. Math Inc., you little freak, sir. Thank you for becoming a member. Big D has gifted a membership. And Toxic Fart says, Josh has the baseball game on another screen. I do not have the baseball game on another screen, although I was watching it before we started, and hopefully I'll be able to catch the last couple of innings when this stream is finished. And MJ has gifted 10 memberships. Let's get some love in the chat, guys. Lots of generosity, and you guys really are the best community on YouTube. I might be biased, but I stand by it. I really do. So let's give you guys a little bit of context on who we're talking about here, because I feel like some people might not know who these people are. Let's start with Kit Green. Okay, so what we're about to listen to is a phone call between two people, a CIA scientist and a remote viewer. And I'm going to give you a little bit of context on these people. So this is Kit Green, right? He is a physician, neuroscientist, and a former CIA intelligence officer with a PhD in medicine. And the reason why I want to give you guys this is because what you're about to hear in this phone call is wild stuff. So I want you to understand like the gravity of the people who are having these conversations. These aren't just like random people. This is like kind of crazy. So this guy's CIA career was from 69 to 85. He served as a medical analyst, senior division analyst, branch chief, right up in the Office of Scientific Intelligence, working with all these big dogs, essentially. And there's even talk of Uri Geller, who he's worked with in the past, in this phone call, which is super interesting. He's also been the chief medical officer and VP for global health. He's briefed CIA directors in the past on UFO matters. He even evaluated the 1995 alien autopsy footage, and he actually believes that it's real, although he later retracted that statement. Interesting, right? What else? He's a U.S. Navy medical officer, expert in medical imaging, neuroscience, and non-lethal weapons, known for blending science with parapsychology and extraterrestrial research. Okay. And there's more. I've cut that down, but there's more. But I think you get the idea. This guy, he seems to know what he's talking about. Let's just leave it at that. And this is the other lady on the other end of the phone call, the remote viewer. Now, I feel like the term remote viewer gets thrown around quite a bit lately. But this lady is actually, and she talks about this in the phone call, she is one of only a couple of, and I didn't even know this was a thing. She's only one of a couple American certified medical intuitive spiritual healers or something. She gives the exact title in the thing, but she's like recognized for her intuitive healing abilities or something to do with ESP. She's like recognized. It's kind of crazy. She also has a PhD, lifelong student in intuition, science, philosophy, metaphysics, and art, and began a career as a scientific and medical illustrator before expanding into fine art inspired by the Arizona Sonoran Desert. There you go. This lady is a remote viewer, but is kind of recognized for her intuitive abilities in an official capacity. So now that we have a little bit of context, we're going to get into this phone call. Now, this goes for about 40 minutes, and it basically gets straight into the bombshells. And then it kind of dips a little in the middle, and then it gets really interesting again at the end as well. Jimster put in $5, says, keen for you to watch the Dan Borish from Area S4. I watched it last night. It was insane. Dan Borish has been on the list for a long time, and we will get to it. We will get to it because that is a fascinating story. I appreciate that. And Junie Cortez says, underwater bases. The 4chan leak continues to check out again and again and again. Coincidence, 70,827. You're damn right, Junie. You're damn right. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right, here we go. We'll get into it, and we'll stop off along the way whenever is necessary.
Is February the 20th, 2017, Kay Randolph here, and I'm working on case .011, and this is the case where you gave me the coordinates 34.108.551 and 118.345179. And I have the questions here, and I can do it in two ways. I can begin by answering the questions about the event, and then go to the person, because I read for the person, I prepared in reading for the person on January 26th, and then I'll...
Sorry, I just forgot to mention that this phone call is from 2017. Okay, and it's only just been leaked in the last couple of days. This is from 2017, which is obviously an interesting time, pretty much around the time when the whole 3 UFO videos were released by the Pentagon, and we had the whole TTSA movement with disclosure begin.
So again, on February 20th, both of those in 2017, which gives us two different peeks into the person. But I would like to give you my impression about the event.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Repeat back to me slowly the coordinates.
The coordinates that you gave me were 34.108.551, and it would be a minus 118.345179. That's what's here.
Minus 118.345.
179.
So, let me repeat. 34.108.551.
Correct.
Second was minus 3118.
No. 118.345179.
Got it. All right. And you said that the readings on the person were done on what the date again? You said
January 26th.
Yeah.
People are saying the audio's bad. Yeah, it's actually slightly better than the original, but hopefully, if it's too loud, I can turn it down a little bit. Let me know. But yeah, hopefully the subtitles are helping a lot. They're carrying the work.
2017 and February the 20th, 2017. I did reading on the person that day and then today, and didn't look back to that day, when I did this one, just to give an update, because we've been working on this for a while. I just wanted to see what was going on.
What about the coordinates? When did you do the coordinate reading?
January 26th.
26 was, okay, and the coordinates and the person on the 26th.
Right.
And on the 20th, on February 20th.
All I did was the person.
Got it. Okay, now, what you suggested, I think you wanted to do is look at the coordinates or report out in the coordinates first.
What I want to do is, you said key example questions about the event.
Yeah.
Okay, and I wanted to go through that, if you don't mind.
Good. No, I like that. That's the way I would like to think.
So you said what occurred. That was your first question. And I put down that if I went into a deep altered state and, just wrote out my impressions, there is a fourth dimensional portal in this area, in the area of the coordinates. It's very near to the site. And the portal, which is a portal between dimensions, is related to an underwater base near the Catalina Island off the coast of Southern California. And on that date and time, a craft landed with occupants. I would say landed, I would say appeared in this dimension.
Okay, hold. I want to make sure I write down the base, underwater base was near Catalina Island.
Catalina Island, Catalina Island.
And the next thing you said?
Off the coast of Southern California.
Okay. And then the next word you said was...
Okay, on that date and time of the event.
Okay.
A craft, I'd say landed, but I would say it appeared in this dimension to land, with occupants which were partly extraterrestrial and a few humans as well. So there were...
And a few humans.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Some aboard the craft were human. Okay, that's where there was a clarification here. This is part, or this particular event is part of ongoing education of influential humans.
This is like really interesting. She talks about this a lot, that it's this event. And, you know, this makes me wonder if this is what the whole 2027 thing comes from. Because this 2027 idea really came from the intelligence community, right? We started hearing it from John Ramirez, Lou Elizondo, etc. And, you know, whatever you think. And, you know, maybe it's disinformation, who knows? But it's come from the CIA, pretty much. I wonder if it's come from this specific remote viewing. And what it's about is what she said there. It's like an event to steer influential humans into helping the wider population prepare for contact, essentially. She talks about people are going to be compelled to do certain things, and they may not even realize or understand why they feel compelled to do them, but they will. And these are the people that are kind of, I guess, being, you know, used or channeled or something to do this, which, and, you know, I'll let her tell the story, but it makes me think, right? The way it's posited here is that it doesn't necessarily seem negative. It kind of seems positive in a way that, you know, people are being used to help establish contact and prepare other people. But, you know, when you think about like what is that? What does that mean? Well, it means that this intelligence, or whoever this species is, can manipulate our minds. That's what it means. And I mean, let's hope they're only doing it for good, and it's just to let everyone know that the aliens are coming. But the reality is they have that capability. That's kind of crazy.
About preparation for a future potential event. The future potential event is a geologic destabilization in the area. I'll tell you more about it in a minute, but I'm going down and answering your questions. The second question you posed was, how long was the event occurrence? The event took more than 2 hours, but the witness's memory is partially blocked, and the witness does not remember the entire event. What precipitated the event? That's your question. That's the third question. Oh no, excuse me. The third was, what was the cause of what occurred? And my response is, there was a planned meeting between high-ranking civilian and military personnel and the others, the watchers, the extraterrestrials, to give directions concerning geologic stabilization.
All right, high-ranking military
and civilian personnel and the others, the watchers, the ETs.
All right.
What precipitated the event? I mean, what would be
That's
the
the fourth question.
That's the fourth question on your email. Certain underwater, offshore, and onshore tectonic plate movements or potential movements inspired the meeting. And I feel that I don't want to go too fast for you.
Sorry, I'll stop you.
I feel
if you're going too fast, I'll say hold.
I feel that the tectonic plate movements were catalyzed by oil drilling and other incursions into the tectonic plate area by humans. What was the purpose of the event? That's your next question.
Oil drilling and other incursions by whom?
By humans into the tectonic plate, the rather sensitive tectonic plate regions. In other words, parts of the tectonic interface there up and down the California coast. They're like locking points. They're like trigger points.
And by the way, like the California coast is where like so many things have happened, right? That's where the Tic Tac incident was. This is where the Battle of LA obviously was. Guadalupe Island is only a little bit further south than Catalina Island, but Catalina Island has been spoken about plenty as having a high strangeness around it and potentially a base like underneath it or something like that. But it was Danny Sheehan that said Guadalupe Island had an extraterrestrial base in it, which again, yeah, it's only a little bit further south on the coastline. So, you know, who knows what could be under Catalina Island as well. There's so much strangeness going on in around that area of the world. Stevie, he says, asking her to repeat coordinates because he can't believe it. The tone in his voice says a lot. And Toxic Fart says, Josh, it's 1-1, bottom of the 6. Thank you for the update, sir. Appreciate it.
I put together the next one, which is 5 and 6. Your 5 was what was the purpose of the event, and then what was the agency of action.
I don't remember saying that.
Okay, but this is all, I'm just reading from your email.
Read for me.
Okay.
5. You're taking 5 plus 6 together.
Oh, right. Wow.
And tell me what you got by.
Okay. The agency of action was a council of 3 to 5 alien species whose mission it is to protect and preserve the offshore base. That is that base down there near Catalina Island off the Southern California coast. And to monitor the activity of humans in that area. So there's an agency of action which is literally a communication network between these alien species. There are 3 to 5 of these alien species.
All right, now, that's the agency of action. What was number 5?
Number 5 is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is the purpose of the event? And I've already told you the purpose, what precipitated the purpose. And
So if anyone who doesn't sort of follow here, what I believe has happened is Kit Green tasked Kay Randall May with some things that he wanted her to try and remote view. And it seems like she's done it, and they're now on the phone, and she's going through the email questions that he gave her and trying to list off the answers that she got for each one. And they kind of get like a little bit confused for a moment.
the agency of action, I just put the agency of action together with the purpose. It was a warning by this group of ET species. And then I'm going to go on to tell you the cause.
Okay.
The cause.
Mark says who recorded these and leaked it. I was actually thinking about that, and from the sound of it, it sounds like the raw audio is coming from Kay's side. So it sounds like Kay is on the phone to Kit with Kit on loudspeaker, and she is recording it with something else. That's at least how the audio sounds when it comes through. So it sounds like it's been leaked from Kay's end. Why? Why now? I don't know. Maybe because disclosure is dead, apparently, and she's just gone, fuck it. I'm putting it out there. Who knows? Who knows? But they do kind of get into this a little bit more towards the end, though, about what they're allowed to speak about, and it's not much.
Of the warning is destabilization of plate tectonics in the area by human offshore oil drilling and other activities which destabilize the plates. And then I'll tell you more about the target. Your next question is to the target. I've got a lot more about the target, so I'll tell you about the target in a few minutes. But the reason, the person that we're talking about, the actual target. But here is what I have to say about the reason that it happened to this person.
Now, it's not actually clear who this person is that they're referring to, that this event happened to, and they kind of allude to the idea that this person was chosen for a specific reason, which Kay is about to explain. Given the time frame and given the reasons that she suggests, kind of sounds like Tom DeLonge. I'm interested to hear what you guys think, and I want you guys to try and think outside the box and maybe come up with some other answers. But to me, when I listen to this, it sounds like Tom DeLonge.
This is case number .011. The target is vocal and an excellent communicator. It was believed by the others, the watchers, the ETs, that he would be able to effectively communicate the warning to others. Now, I'm going to tell you more about the target in a few minutes. I'll go deeply into about the target, if you wish, to separate that from this. But I'm just saying, what I'm feeling is that this target was deliberately chosen for his potential to help achieve the purpose of the council. I'm going to call the agency of action as council. In other words, he was chosen for his potential to do that. And here's a larger pattern. This all fits into a much larger pattern of behavior, which is more than just this event. The pattern is to place thoughts, insights, and information telepathically.
Are you saying spots? S-P-O-T-S?
No, to place thoughts. T-H-O-U-G-H-T-S. Thoughts. Ideas.
Thoughts, good. Thoughts, what are the other two things?
Insights, which would mean like understanding, and information into the minds of people who are able and are willing and capable of spreading this throughout humans. The disclosure of alien presence will take place this way. In other words, by reaching what could be called a critical mass or a critical number of individuals who are compelled, and they may not understand why they're compelled, but they feel they are compelled to take certain actions, primarily protect the environment, make sure natural resources are protected, prevent nuclear annihilation, that kind of thing. But they're going to feel they're compelled to do this, and they may not totally understand why. So the disclosure of alien presence will take place this way, and many contactees, such as this person, will be recruited or activated to share their information at the right moment.
What are people thinking so far? I saw some people saying Chris Bledsoe. I don't necessarily know if Chris Bledsoe is an effective communicator, which was like the first reason that she suggested that this person was chosen. Not that I think he's a bad communicator, but I think there's a lot better out there. And that's like, no hate against Chris, but you know what I'm saying? I think there's just better communicators out there. So I don't know. Spielberg, Trump, David Icke, interesting. I mean, David Icke had been doing it for a long time, though. David Grush, yeah. There's some good suggestions in the chat. I'm still leaning towards Tom DeLonge, but I'm not set on it. I'm definitely not set on it. Toxic Fart says, some say that Atlantis sank because they drilled into the core. That they were drilling for oil all the way back in Atlantis and Lemuria. And Bleak threw in $10. My man. Didn't even say a message. Just doing it for the love. My man. Thank you very much.
Okay. So there are many individuals who are in the population now who have been contacted like this individual, maybe not as dramatically, not in an event per se that could be pinpointed. Many of them will not or do not have subconscious memories. If you talk to them, they probably wouldn't even say they believe in ETs, but they will be compelled to protect the environment, propelled to essentially protect the planet or protect those parts of the planet which also are, should we say, important to the ETs as well. And I feel in this case, there is this specific base, and this base seems to be under the ocean. It is partly what we would call in this dimension and partly in a slightly different dimension, but it is definitely a physical presence where it is. I would like to tell you something about this patient, this person.
Okay, now you want to tell me about
the person of case 011.
Here we go. Some more details.
I feel this is a fully human individual. In other words, I don't feel this person is a hybrid.
I love the way how, remember, this is 2017, and she's going like, you know, I feel like this person is a human, not a hybrid. You know, they're not discussing if hybrids are real. That part's a given. It's just, are they hybrid or not? And it's just interesting how, like, you know, mainstream sort of UFO discussion is only sort of just arriving at that topic in the last, 6 months, that people are really starting to talk about the idea of like human hybrids really, being walking among us. This is in 2017 with a CIA officer, and it's not up for discussion. They're just going like, nope, this one wasn't a hybrid. They're definitely full human. Pretty interesting. Zapparoo with $5 says, Josh, what about you? You're compelled to find the truth and get the word out. Maybe. But, I think the person not being a hybrid rules me out. Yeah, unfortunately. You guys know I'm half reptile. Greta Thunberg is compelled. How dare you? My man, thank you very much.
Who has been monitored and abducted, but not in such a way that it was so traumatic that, it overwhelmed everything, since early childhood. This individual has been followed, essentially, in development, has been selected, and tissue samples may have been taken, especially early in childhood, may actually have a scar on his body from early childhood that he can't account for. But he's not a hybrid, okay? But has been chosen because of his ability to communicate. I feel that this person is either a film producer or an activist or a very vocal person, very energetic. But what's really interesting is between that
Travel producer or an activist. Now, again, it doesn't have to be those specific things, but like things like that. I mean, travel producer is like it's not very close to like traveling musician, but maybe activist. Don't know if I'd call, who's an activist? I mean, maybe you could consider anyone who's like really I guess you could consider Tom DeLonge an activist in what he did with TTSA and trying to get a message out and spread awareness. I guess that is activism in a way. Greta Thunberg, yep, could be Greta. Erica Kirk, Dalai Lama, David Icke. Don't know, let's keep listening.
January 26th and February 20th, his throat area has really been ratcheted down. So I feel he feels blocked right now.
It's a male.
And I got the sense that, quote unquote, these are the words that came to me. They're not something I usually use. Running scared. I feel he's running scared, quote unquote, right now. Feels like a message of great importance is being repeated to him. He wants to get it out to the public in a film or other means. There's a sense of urgency. I would say this person is a contactee, but and not necessarily a hybrid, as I mentioned, but was chosen because of talents, innate abilities, or some connections that he has. Something, this is seen to be a person who has the potential for being heard somehow by the greater population. And very intuitive, but has a lot of anxiety about, it's more like free-floating anxiety. Like something's going to happen and feels like that something is going to happen pretty soon. So I did get something unusual today as opposed to last time. I feel he's not feeling as well physically today, February 20th, 2017, as he did January 26th, 2017. Because today what I picked up was he may be experiencing some rather unusual autoimmune issues from stress, especially stress activated. This may include some demyelinization in the peripheral, at the very base of the peripheral motor nerves of the lower spine. Because I get a sense that he may have some tingling or even numbness, perhaps even some neuropathies of some sort from the lower body. Doesn't seem to be up in the upper body, but seems to be in the lower, and it seems to be coming from L3, L4, L5 down to the sacrum.
Now, I'm not trying to fit everything she says into my Tom DeLonge answer, but I'm pretty sure Tom DeLonge, I remember as a Blink-182 fan, Tom DeLonge used to have back issues. I'm pretty sure that's a thing. Because he's quite tall and he always would wear his guitar super low and he would just like hook his back. I'm pretty sure that's a thing. Don't know. I'm only going off the things I can relate here, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on Tom DeLonge, but I can't think of a better answer right now. We can do a poll, but I can only put in 4 different suggestions, and I'm not sure who the top 4 should be. So maybe if you guys just sort of spam what you're thinking, I'll try and gauge the most common ones, and we'll put them into a poll.
Now, L3, 4, 5, and down the sacrum showed up before on January 26th as being somewhat tight and blocked, but today it's showing up as possibly having some demyelinization near the root basis. You know how the root, how the motor nerves come out of that area, go down into the lower part of the body. Also today, there's something going on with some stress in his right shoulder, but that didn't show up before. He does have tension up in the upper part of his back, thoracic 2 to thoracic 6, but today the right shoulder showed up. That could be just an incidental thing, but for some reason his throat area is really closed down today, and his thyroid seems a little low, whereas last time it was really open. I mean, in January 26th, it was really open. So something is going on. It's probably more than just having a sore throat. I feel he's feeling like he has this message to share or something, and he can't get it out. He's not sure he can get it out. I asked who might be the agency, what species. I did.
All right, poll is up. I've thrown in 4. Let me know how you're feeling with those.
Get the short grays coming from Zeta Reticuli, also the Arcturians, multidimensional, and some from the Pleiades. So there are more than one species, the short grays being from Zeta Reticuli being one of the predominant ones. And these are species which are not, they are benevolent in the sense that they have, okay, I have more about them, okay, on the back here. The others are the watchers, are representatives of what's called the Supreme Council of Elders. Okay, I'm going to stop this first audio file. Here we go, now we're recording to get the message out, not so much about the event, but about to protect the stability of the region. I feel it is to be honored.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. I guess what I'd like to do is ask you, not now, but when you have a chance, go back to the event, which you described in some detail. Okay.
All right, we've had 166 votes. Tom DeLonge is at 42%. We've got the results here. Chris Bledsoe, 25%. Elon Musk, 21%. And 11% David Icke. Interesting that David Icke scored lowest. I thought maybe Elon Musk would be lowest. But like someone said before, all of the symptoms that she is explaining, like a sore throat, a sore back, shoulder, these are all kind of injuries that you could sustain like touring as a rock star and singing and having to, you know, rock out every night with your guitar and stuff like that. It does track. I feel like people are probably going to think I'm like trying to gaslight everyone into thinking it's Tom DeLonge just because I'm a Tom DeLonge fan. I'm not, but it really does kind of make sense. It really does.
And focus on him physically during the event. And see if you were to observe him during the event, you were to be a little mouse, shoulder. Where do you see, if you see, anything in terms of his immediate surround? By that I mean, let's say, not what he's looking out at, not what he is moving to or doing, but what is it, where is the, what kind of an environment? What kind of an environment is he in during the event? And what kind of observations, if you were to be like a foot away, 2 feet away, 3 feet?
Construction Josh, anything can F your back up. Yeah, and look, probably worth noting that, I mean, Chris Bledsoe did have some like heavy surgeries and stuff like that. I know, and he had Crohn's disease, but I'm pretty sure a lot of his experiences came after like being in hospital after having some kind of heavy surgeries or something like that. So, you know, I think that's worth throwing in there as well. I mean, just like Tom DeLonge, Chris Bledsoe also did become surrounded by a lot of CIA people as well. So, you know, I think Bledsoe or Tom, definitely some good shouts. And, you know, those guys knew each other too. People saying Spielberg fits the profile too. Is Spielberg known for having these like, you know, bad throat, back, autoimmune diseases as well? I'm not sure. I don't know a lot about Spielberg. Mona says, did she say if he was born before 2017? No, but the call took place in 2017. So unless they're remote viewing a newborn baby, I think we can assume that this happened. This person was born before 2017. Stephen Hawking. Maybe not. He's too busy having a good time on the island.
4 feet away. Essentially in his surround. What, if anything, would you see?
Okay, I'll do that.
As you look at him, okay?
Okay, and I'll do that sometime in the next few days. And I'll email you and say I have that information, and then you can talk to me about it at your convenience whenever you would like. Because there's such a lot, you know, and the questions are so large. This helps me to know where you want me to focus, and I will do that.
Well, that's a minor thing, because you've been giving me information about some extremely interesting things concerning exactly what the questions were that I gave. Questions that I gave you are answered very well, and I'm really grateful because you focused on exactly the language of my questions, and they gave me the answers. And they were very specific about very sort of corporal state space information. And what I just asked you now is to look at the corporeal states of his physiognomy, body. So, I appreciate, by the way, the information concerning his neurological state, because I'll be meeting and examining him for the next 3 days.
That's of high concern to me. High concern to me because it's such a difference. His state, because it's so different between January 26th and today. So.
Well, I should find out.
Yeah, find out because he's under a lot more stress. The other thing I was going to ask you, if there is such a base, do you want me to look at it?
I guess at the moment, I feel a little bit like that, Kay, that I do when you give me information about categories of medical data that I don't have expertise in, and I'm very frequently saying, don't bother telling me about chakras because I don't even know what a chakra is.
Okay, but I mean, I could go.
I don't even know what a goddamn chakra is. Coming at me with that spiritual shit. June Boyce says, go to satellite view and zoom in off the west coast of Aya San Benito to see tunnels. Very, very strange. Interesting. I do love a good little Google Earth deep dive. Thank you, my man. I'll have to check that out.
Your schematic if you're interested. So if you ever find yourself interested,
I guess the question in my mind about that is it's a really good point, and it kind of leads into the next part of our discussion. I'm not the expert in assessing the value of that category of information. I don't know anything about architecture. I don't know anything about dimensional characterizations of military facilities that I don't have access to. I don't know anything about detail that would come from that, so it would have no meaning for me. But, and this is the key point, it kind of gets to our next part of the question. Others in my confederation with whom I'm working are expert at those things, just like they are not expert in allopathic medicine.
Right.
So my focus with you on the dozen cases we have been the clinical medical issues for which I can get or for which I already have personal examination of the patients or access to brain scans and access to blood tests and access to internal medical and neurological data. And so I tend to stay away from having you give me information that has little meaning. Now, having said that, here's the departure point, and we're now finished with 001 and into the other subject. Our sponsor and myself and Hal and George are extremely impressed at the granularity of your reporting on the clinical medical data of the individuals. For example, I'll just give you.
This is where they start to get into talking about like testing the reality of quantum entanglement in real time with like MRI machines and things like that. And also linking up with Uri Geller, which is super interesting. Toxic Fart believes that it could be Rambro. It could be Rambro in the chat is the chosen one. Who knows? Rambro, what do you have to say for yourself? And Mona says, no need to get mean. I came late on the live. I was thinking she's reading the future rather than the past event. Mona, please. I'm not being mean to you at all. I was just simply answering your question. However, if you'd stated that you were referring to a potential future event, it would have been a bit more clearer. But just answering the question as I read it. Apologies if you took it the wrong way.
The most recent, on a number of cases, number of the cases, I have transcribed the factual medical information and given them to the individual and asked them to tell me what they think. And in almost every case, they basically say that individual, meaning you, knows me very well. And most importantly, a recent one of the patients was a physician, and one of the patients was a sub-cabinet level officer. And both of them said to me, I gave them essentially a written document.
John Porton says it's not him, right? We can scratch John Porton 8303 off the list. Thank you, John.
That took only the theoretical statements that you asserted that were medical, that were actual, based on science, not symptoms, but based on science, clinical medical science. And they both went through them and found that 95% of your statements were correct, and the others they could not determine. So that's pretty impressive. That's better than a physician does when he puts together all of his medical data. That's better than an allopathic physician does.
You can see why I'm certified by the American Board of Scientific Medical Intuition.
That's what I was mentioning at the start. She's certified by the American Board of Scientific Intuition. Didn't even know that was a thing, but that's pretty crazy that, like, it's crazy that these things actually are recognized in some kind of official capacity, but, like, no one talks about it. Like, you would think that if that's a thing, pretty important, pretty interesting, pretty impactful, pretty, like, people would probably want to know that that's a thing, and, you know, maybe there are more people out there. But apparently not.
I can certainly see that.
There are only two of us who are Carolyn Miss and myself.
So that is related to a second overlapping part of the Venn diagram. So first we've got the reportage of the reasons for the individual patients I've given you, writ large, having certain physical and neurological characteristics. I mean, and it's quite good. I mean, you even described, for example, in one patient, just kind of at the end of the discussion, that the individual had a pond that was significantly larger than the average pond. That's a pretty abstruse thing to say. That's a pretty odd thing to say. That's a pretty strange thing to report. That's a pretty weird thing. But
Do you want to tell us a few more times what it was, Kit? Going to reiterate it just a few more times, please. Dan Garden says, do you think the awareness of others' intuition can have an effect on the intuition itself, similar to how remote viewers do it double blind? Maybe, but I think, like, the only impact that I think it could have would be people becoming more aware of it. I don't know. It's an interesting question, though, perhaps.
I happen to have that individual's brain scan, and so I measured the pods, and I measured 100 controls, and you were right. I mean, the pods of that particular individual is 100% larger than the average for age, sex match group of individuals. I mean, there's not very many people that even care about the pods of the brain. So, I mean, that kind of thing all put together is from a piece of the Venn diagram that has to do with the accuracy of clinical, neurological, and cognitive data, which is the other piece of what you described with that. And also, I must say, some of the spinal column defects that you pointed to, which one of the two individuals, in fact, has been very interesting. The encircling second part of the Venn diagram is what is of interest to our sponsor. And
Who's the sponsor? Like, who's is it the CIA themselves, or is someone sponsoring the CIA to do this stuff?
Relates to the experiment which I shared that we have discussed, which is the possibility of a simultaneous functional brain scan between you and that facility in Phoenix, and this individual's facility, possibly in either Western Europe, probably in London, or in Tel Aviv. And you have already stated that you would be willing to be a subject in the experiment for an attempt for an ineffable contact communication in the time and state, precisely with Geller.
My only concern is that
Okay. I think people were like facetiously saying Israel is the sponsor, and now they're talking about meeting up with Uri Geller in Tel Aviv. For anyone who's like a bit confused or has tuned in halfway through and not sure where the conversation is at right now, they're basically talking about potentially trying to definitively prove quantum entanglement with two remote viewers or two psychics. And they're suggesting that Kay Randall May goes into an experiment with Uri Geller, and they will have them in two different states in America, both under an MRI machine that is linked to an MRI machine in another state with the other person, and somehow, test if they are able to have some kind of like psychic, or like, I guess the best way to put it would be like measure the telepathic connection, the quantum entanglement between the two psychics, if they can form some kind of connection together. And they do go into a bit more detail about it, but they both seem to be a little bit sus on Uri Geller.
I want your, I'm trusting you explicitly in that I don't want anything to be implanted, any ideas implanted in my mind by that. You know what I mean?
Well, let me tell you where we are.
Right.
It kind of gets to the departure point of this conversation, Kay.
Right.
I told you that I feel confident about certain pieces of data, and I do not feel confident about other pieces of data. Now, if there was to be a point-to-point communication attempt, I can tell you three things about that experiment. Number one, about 1/3 of that, I'm the only expert on Earth. Because of the functional MRI connectivity systems of what parts of the brain are related to other parts of the brain for communication and quantum telepathy. The second thing is the software associated with the calculations and the manner in which the scan sequences would be done at two different locations. So where the technical people doing the scan sequencing with the radio frequencies used for MRI in both locations were coordinated and using the same paleo coordinates for looking at the brain simultaneously.
Right.
That's a very rich, very interesting, very complicated, very mature, and very, 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 very advanced software. And each one of those experiments is done individually. So there is a second group of people, one of whom is a PhD engineer, neuroscientist who works for Hal and George.
Now, I'm pretty sure, he's talking about Hal Puthoff there. But George, I'm not sure. I'm not sure who George is. I don't know if anyone has any ideas in the chat. Let us know.
Hal's Institute. He would be in charge of that. Not Kit. Okay. The third part of this sort of a communication gets to the questions that Hal is the world expert in, which has to do with the interpretation of data that comes from verbal reportage of individuals doing remote viewing. And he is expert in that, not me. He's done thousands of cases. I've done 0. And he would be the individual responsible for that. So what the issue is that the sponsor's interested in is tying that all together. And the sponsor is interested in one dimension of that experiment, and I'm interested in the second, Hal's interested in the third, and here the dimensions are. I'm interested in the dimension of showing that quantum connectivity between two proven, competent telepaths can be measured with simultaneity in terms of the portions of the brain that are activated. That is now possible to do. I don't do the math, but I know how to determine what portions of the midbrain connected to the caudate, the putamen, connected to the prefrontal cortex, and connected to the part of the brain that does imaging is all related to each other. That's something that right now is a very, very rich area of my world of MRI.
A lot of people, I don't think it's really clear who the George is. I mean, people are saying George Washington, George Jetson. The first one that obviously came to mind, most people's mind, is George Knapp. But like realistically, I don't think George Knapp is involved with this kind of thing. He's a reporter and a journalist. This is like top secret CIA experiments. I just, I don't think. People are saying George Michael, George Smith. Yeah, George Bush. Look, I think we can say we don't know. I think it's unclear at this point. Zapparoo with $20. My man, he says, he's at my alma mater. Christopher Kit Green currently works at the School of Medicine, Wayne State University. His current project is high-field MRI, Polarity and putamen and intelligence. He's at my alma mater, or is that mater? I'm not sure. I've probably butchered how to pronounce that. My apologies. But interesting. Go and ask him, Zapparoo. Go and knock on his door and say, who is patient or client 011? The people want to know.
Hal is the expert in knowing how to design the experiment. And the sponsor is interested in having an experiment designed where the thing that you do and the thing that Uri does happen to be identical to each other. Okay? Both you and Uri have asserted, and in your case, you have, in my judgment, proved.
This is where they're talking about Uri Geller now. Who the fuck is George? Put it on a t-shirt. I like it.
In Uri's case, I can't say that the connectivities that you get for the acquisition of information includes the others.
Oh, yes.
Okay, now.
That's the way I interpret what he just said there. And actually, let's just go back a tiny bit, because that's kind of wild what he's saying.
For the acquisition of information includes the others.
To me, he's saying like the way that you're able to acquire information through this ability involves the others, aka the Watchers, the extraterrestrials, the others, right? We've heard the term the others from a lot of people. The way I'm interpreting what he just said there is basically your ability involves the others, and she goes, yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay, now, our sponsor is interested in the land.
Yeah, I know he is.
Hal is interested in the former. I'm interested in the neurology and the genetics. Okay, so what the sponsor has done within the very recent past is said he would like to have as you know, have put out feelers to Uri, and there's good news and there's bad news. And I don't know where it's going to work, but that's just because we're dealing with Uri. With you, there's only good news, but with Uri, there's good news and bad. Good news is Uri is very interested. The bad news is Uri is very interested in publicity, and he.
The good news is Uri is interested. The bad news is it's Uri. Corrupt NPC says, I'm out of town, thugging with my rounds. Me too, bro. Me too.
Has been informed by my interlocutor to him in Tel Aviv that ain't going to happen. There will be no manner of anything public about such an experiment.
Right.
None. Zero.
Right.
Now,
I think that has to be.
One of the members of the team is a senior author of a book or two, actually, about Uri, and is a senior editor of the Financial Times of London. And we would agree that he and only he would have the right of second refusal, with ours having first refusal to anything that such an experimental design and results might portend. For example, if the experiment were to end up being scientifically pristine, the data were to show quantum pseudolocation between two purely, absolutely pristine experimental MRI scanners, we would not say that information could not be part of scientific literature with the appropriate protection of sources.
Right.
And we won't say that Uri would never, ever, ever, ever be allowed to say, I was the person in that journal article, subject number V.
Right.
Okay? But he couldn't do it ahead of time.
Right.
Now, he may say, no. If I can't be in control, if I can't have the right of total, my own people present, my own cameras present, my own recording people present, I can't go on TV and say, look what these guys did and what they discovered, then it's not going to happen. Then what we're going to do is find another person than Uri.
Yeah.
And we have several candidates. Now, I won't do that, but I got a feeling that one of them, to be honest with you, just between you and me, one of them may be subject 011.
Okay.
Because it seems to me that there's a certain coalescence of what you said, and I got to now ask you a couple questions just so I can write down the answers.
Now, there's literally only like 2 minutes of this left, but just scrolling through the comments here, according to Rambro, the others were contacted when they were 12 years old. They came together later on, way later. It was Pat Price, Joe, Hal, and Uri. And George is George Smith, who is apparently part of this group. And Rambro, sounds like Rambro's all over this one. So, Rambro, brother, hook me up. Send me what you got in the DMs, and maybe we can kind of explain this a little bit better in a follow-up stream or video. George Santos. Was George Santos or George Smith? Actually, I think it was Santos that Rambro wrote. I'm trusting Rambro on this one. I think it is George Santos. I think that's what you wrote anyway. But if I get a bit more info on this, we will follow it up in a stream just to give you guys a bit more context. But there's only a couple of minutes left on this one, so let's finish it off.
Here's my concern. Here is the deal. Years ago, when I was in the presence of Uri, and he was on the stage, and I was just in the audience, I had very distinct psychokinetic reactions to him. I told you, the ring on my finger bent and broke. I am concerned for my well-being if I am simultaneously linked to this person. So that is is my only concern. I do not understand what that link may be. I don't think we need to understand. But I personally, and that's the only time that ever happened to me, although I've had a lot of psychokinetic effects around me in my life, but I've never had a ring bend and break on my finger before.
I understand.
I'm just concerned for my own safety. That's the long and short of it. If I get connected to Yuri, what's going to happen? Is the MRI going to explode? I don't know. And I don't think I'm being overly dramatic. I'm just saying, I don't know and I'm not sure. I want to, So this is where, the other thing is, whatever it's them,
And that's where the call ends. It just kind of cuts out there, right? But super interesting in those last couple of minutes. She's basically saying, I don't want to be a part of any psychic experiment with Uri Geller, because it sounds like she went to some kind of live demonstration of Uri, and she had some kind of psychokinetic reaction where she said the ring on her finger like exploded or burnt or something like that. Some kind of, kinetic energy or something like that. Kind of wild. Really wild, actually. And if anyone who's tuning in late, I would highly recommend you go back to the start, because there were some huge bombshells at the start of that. And I feel like I forgot to leave a link to the original below. I will do it. I will put it in there when this stream ends. However, I will say, for all the people who are complaining that audio was poor, you're not going to enjoy the original because it's worse and it doesn't have captions. So, I'll leave that up to you. Anyone who was complaining about the audio and goes over there, I will expect your apology on my desk by Monday morning. Thank you very much. Dan Garden says, George Hathaway, who worked on gravity control experiments with Hal Puthoff. Abandon 84 says George Santos, ex-congressman for New York. We read that one. And Joshua Bartlett says, what's up, freaks? Hope y'all having a great weekend. So there we go. And, like I've said many, many times, what is so good about having an awesome community like this is that we find things out together. And it sounds like Rambro has a few more details for us. So like I said, we're going to be streaming tomorrow night in Australia. If we have some updates on that, I'll definitely give them to you. But we've got a few exciting streams planned for the next couple of days. And then we're going to have a few days off. There'll be some videos coming out, hopefully. And we're going to get prepped and excited and build the tension for a fun birthday party stream next Sunday. Polarity turns 1. And guys, remember, we are now partnered with Proton for the full unlimited suite. VPNs, cloud storage, encrypted emails. You can support me by subscribing to this and protect yourself. I get a kickback from it. You get 23% off, and you get an online shield and set of armor to protect yourself. So guys, thank you very much for hanging out today. I hope you enjoyed it. Honestly, some wild stuff in there, and I'm definitely excited to dig into that a little bit further. Keep being good people that you are. Keep being the freaks that you are. Look after yourself. Be kind. Get outside. Touch some grass. If you have a dog, give him a little pat. Give him a little belly rub. If you have a cat, give him a little scratch behind the ears. Make him feel good. And until next time, take care of yourself. And I'll see you then.
Eventually, people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk